Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the first Solutions Watch episode of 2022. Thank you for holding out during my time off, and now that I'm recharged and ready to get back at it, I want to tackle a big problem, or at least something in need of a solution, we'll put it that way, that has been around for many years now. I receive literally on a weekly basis at this point people who are offering to subtitle or translate my videos into different languages, or are asking, do you have this in Spanish? Do you have this in German? Whatever the case may be. I get this all the time. And just as an example of that, in the last month alone, I have received Dutch subtitles of The Real Anthony Fauci, which are now linked up on the Real Anthony Fauci interview that I did with RFK Jr. I've received Italian subs of the World War I documentary, Part 1 and Part 2, and I'm assured Part 3 is coming next week. Somebody put French subtitles on the Bystander Effect edition of this Solutions Watch podcast, and I've received an email from Apostolos to translate my work into German, and an offer from Axel to translate my work into Spanish. And that is literally just in the past month. I'm receiving this all the time. The problem is the corporate port is not set up for multiple translations and languages and what have you, and I'll post your entire Italian transcription of my podcast. It's just not set up for that. What we need is a place where people can go, where all of these subtitles and dubs and various versions, other language versions, will be available for all sorts of podcasts and documentaries, and people can collectively work on it and submit their own subtitles and other things, and we'll be able to collect it in a place. Who will come along to help sort this out? Well, of course you should know, as usual, Corporate Report friend Derek Broze is there working on this problem. So Derek Broze, ConsciousResistance.com, thank you very much for joining us today. Happy New Year, and let's start telling people about Translate the Truth.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, James. So for one, that's awesome to hear that you're getting so much people reaching out about the multiple languages. I'll share a little bit about why I'm being driven to what I'm calling this Translate the Truth initiative, and now a channel. For me, the reason I'm feeling called to this is similar to what you just described. There are people who occasionally will reach out, hey, I translated this for you. It's in Portuguese, it's this thing, or it's whatever language. And I try to share those out when I can. But I hadn't really ever given any real long thought about the importance of having content in multiple languages. Obviously, more languages, more people, it makes clear sense. But I hadn't given it too much thought until, as many of your audience know, I've been living in Mexico for almost 2 years now. And being out here, especially during COVID, pandemic, fever, crisis, whatever, and realizing there's so much information, so much quality reporting from yourself, myself, Whitney Webb, Ryan, many other researchers that have been coming out during this crisis, and it's in English. I don't think many of the truth movement around the world recognizes how much the content is really in English. For example, you are a Canadian living in Japan, doing English-speaking content about the North American continent. I'm in Mexico doing English-speaking content, and there are people who in Europe who have channels, but it's all in English. It's the same thing, and most of the bigger documentaries, including yours, books, etc., have all been published in English. Some, make it over, but a lot of them haven't been. I think the bulk of this work that woke up people like you and I and many in the audience still hasn't been translated to more than one language beyond English often. And so as I've been out here and we've been doing more outreach, we've been making an effort to print COVID information on flyers in Spanish and going out and passing out flyers. I just can see how important it is because, for one, Mexico, and I think most of Latin America, doesn't have a giant truth movement like we're used to. It just doesn't exist in Spanish. There are a few channels here and there on the smaller level, but nowhere near, reaching hundreds of thousands, millions of people like we've seen in the English-speaking world. So as I've been out here looking and trying to find other activists, other Spanish-speaking activists and content creators and journalists, I could just see wow, I bet there would be more if they knew this information, if they had something to start digging into. And lo and behold, thankfully this summer, we saw the beginning of what I think is the kind of early stages of this Mexican truth movement. There were two groups that have popped up, Mexicans for Truth and United for Truth, that are just organizing around the country. And Mexico hasn't really been heavy-handed, so there hasn't really been too much to protest just yet. But now there are more and more people, though, asking questions about the virus or lack of virus, the test, and all these sorts of things, as well as the shots, of course. And so we're seeing an increase in this. And so recently, where I live, the Freedom Cell out here, we got connected with the United for Truth local group, and we went out just this past weekend and did some flyering together. And so I can just see this beginning of something happening. I've got my books translated into Spanish now and some of my works. And so just in general, this has been on my mind, and I can just see how there's a thirst for it. I mean, I'm getting so many people asking like, well, do you know if this is in Spanish? Do you have any COVID-19 info in Spanish that I can share with my family or my friends? And that really led me to this idea of like, we need a real united effort to translate as much of the truth as possible. And so I just call it Translate the Truth. And so far, all it is an Odyssey channel. I think eventually it probably will end up being a website, but for the moment, it's an Odyssey channel. What I like about Odyssey, for those who aren't aware, you can upload videos, of course, but you can also upload audio clips. So if it's just a podcast and somebody wants to dub it or something like that, you can also upload written articles. So if we just have an article, one of the articles you've done or essays I've done that people want to translate, Odyssey can host all that. So it'll give us a starting point. And yeah, the channel is now in existence. And I just started adding some different videos, some clips from your works. And I added a talk that has been translated from Mark Passio. I added an interview Whitney Webb did in Spanish. And the first 2 seasons of My Pyramid of Power, which have Spanish subtitles, are up there now. And there's more to come. I know you got more work, like you just mentioned, that I've got people translating works of mine. And I expect after this interview, there will be even more interest in this.
I can guarantee you're going to get a lot of people asking about this, because as I say, I've been getting this on a weekly basis for years now. So absolutely, we need this. Let's talk about the way that people can submit translations if they're inclined to do one, or to subtitles, dubbing, or transcription. What's the best way for them to actually submit that to the channel?
Yeah, so I put on the description of the Odyssey channel just an email that I just created. So translate the truth at C Templar. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. And if you're interested, if you've already got translations that you're like, hey, we've already done some of this, let me know. And we can either just upload it directly to the Odyssey channel, or if it's already on Odyssey, we can do the reblog thing where it'll still show up on the channel. If you want to do written translations, or as you said, audio dubbing, whatever way you want to help, or if you've already got this is, of course, at the moment, just a volunteer effort. Maybe in the future, this could be a thing that could be a paid gig for some people. But right now, it's just if you care about truth and you care about getting content into the hands of, I'm focusing on Spanish, but we can go any direction with this. I mean, I welcome as many languages as possible. And I'm still trying to figure out how, and I'm open to suggestions, how to organize the channel best at the moment. Like I said, I might just make a James Corbett playlist, and then it can have just everything you want, or maybe we'll organize it by language, maybe multiple different ways. But any ideas are welcome on that. And I just figure, like, let's start doing this. I think we're in the beginning of the year, 2022. How many documentaries, books, essays, important articles that haven't been put in these different languages, whether Spanish or otherwise, could we do in 2022? I mean, I encourage everybody, if this is an idea that excites you, what is the first documentary, the first book that woke you up, or the first video of James's that really got you, just thinking on a deeper level? Let's start there. See if you've got something that you can translate there. And even James, I'm curious, I know you've got some done already, but what would you, if you chose one series or one, podcast, what would you encourage the audience to start with?
Well, I guess in our times that we're living through right now, the most relevant would be the Bill Gates documentary, COVID-9/11, bioterrorism. Those types of podcasts and documentaries that I've done in the past couple of years would be probably the most important at this moment. But again, I think it has to be from, as you say, what people want. Like, what was something that you were particularly interested in that you want to translate? I think that's where this is going to come from, because as you say, it's a volunteer effort. So, I wouldn't direct people, you must translate this and must not translate that. Translate what you want. But I would say, obviously, at this time, the biomedical stuff is going to be the most interesting to most people. And here's something that occurs to me. Of course, we're thinking about all of this English language content that hopefully we can get out to people in multiple different languages. What about people who can speak French or German or Spanish or whatever, who can translate into English for us poor English speakers who do not speak other languages? Wouldn't it be great to have some of that content in English as well?
That's an awesome idea. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that way, but obviously it works both ways. I'm sure there's plenty of great works that haven't been translated to English that could broaden all of our, English minds.
Awesome. Yeah, my first inclination is to think, it should be sorted by language, because if you're a Dutch speaker, you want to know all the Dutch stuff or something like that, right? But there could be multiple ways of sorting it. Anyway, I'm sure people will have some ideas about that. But something that strikes me with regards to the need for this project and the ways that it should be done, it revolves around the fact that Who is Bill Gates was already translated into, I don't even know, it was over 20 languages. There were Serbian and Dutch and all sorts of subtitles that were available on GooTube, because as people may or may not know, GooTube used to have a function. I think they removed it last year. Who knows or cares? But they used to have a function where a channel creator could come in and open up the subtitles so that people could submit subtitles, and then you just approve them. And so I had dozens of translations of all sorts of documentaries and things that just disappeared.
Yeah, I had similar things. My documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse and Bringing Down Epstein, had been translated to multiple languages when it was still on YouTube, and then those were all gone. So I want to encourage anybody in the audience who does follow my work as well to go to my website, theconsciousresistance.com, check out the documentaries, and if any of them appeal to you as well, I would love more translations of any language of those works.
So I would say, of course, yes, do submit it to Translate the Truth, and hopefully it'll get out there to many people. But always, always, always keep a copy of your translation yourself. I hope most people would do that anyway, but please make sure that you have a copy as well, because who knows what can happen with what channel and what day. Whenever you're submitting something out there, keep a copy for yourself so that you will have it and be able to put it up in different formats in different places. My vision for this is to, Translate the Truth hopefully will be a great place where people can easily find a bunch of translations, but hopefully this will proliferate translations out there. And people, I don't know what your content policy would be, but I think everyone should repost this everywhere and on your channel and other places and wherever you can get this out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely no limitations. I mean, the only reason we're even calling for this initiative is to get as much information out as possible. So, feel free to take it, whether it's going to end up on our channel or anywhere else. The idea is just to get the information out there.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to link up the channel, and I'm going to link up that email address that you talked about for people who are interested in submitting so that they can get more information if they are interested in submitting something in there. Is there any preferred format for what that you're looking for videos or for text?
I'm open to all of it. I mean, just email me and we'll work it out. At this point, if you've got anything, whether it's a text, transcription, video, we'll make it work. Thankfully, we do have a team already kind of forming of editors ready to pop subtitles into videos and a couple of translators in Spanish. So, we're ready for more people who want to volunteer and help out.
Awesome. Yeah. And if there are volunteers out there that want to contribute, please get in touch. That's awesome. This is great. I think this is a good way forward. As you say, this will help to proliferate information across the language barrier, which, as you say, a lot of us might take for granted. Everyone I listen to is in English. Well, yeah, of course. So maybe it'll be great when you can get some Spanish voices and German and French and Japanese and whatever. Okay, yeah, excellent. I'm very excited about that. And while we're here talking about solutions and things we can actually do, let's talk about the Greater Reset Conference, which is coming up later this month. When, where, how is this taking place, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, thank you, James, of course, for promoting Translate the Truth and for being involved in the Greater Reset. So this is our third one around. We did it January of 2021 and May of 2021, and we're back to do a third one, which we're calling the Greater Reset Integration. So we're trying to be even more hands-on, practical, solutions-based, which the whole event is based around, but really encouraging the speakers to see how they can just leave the audience with some practical tools and the different themes. We're looking at food and permaculture and food independence, health of the mental, physical, spiritual kind. We're looking at taking back technology, building communities, all these different areas, but how can we integrate these solutions? So that's the big focus. It's taking place January 26th through the 30th. That's a Wednesday through a Sunday. And it is available to watch for free online at thegreaterreset.org. There's not a registration. There's no hoops to jump through or money to pay. There's no money to buy in to watch virtually or to watch the videos afterwards. It's going to be made available for free immediately afterwards. We are hosting two in-person events, one in Mexico where I'm at and one in Texas with John Bush. But whether you can come in person or not, you can watch for free online. And, talking about like the translations and all that, I think another reason this has been on my mind is because starting with the Greater Reset, we were really aiming at an international audience. I mean, obviously we're facing big worldwide problems here with the Great Reset and all these agendas. And so we were really marketing our audience and reaching out to speakers from different parts of the world. And we saw with the first Greater Reset, we had, lots of people listening from across Europe and even parts of Asia. It was really awesome. And that's when the translation started. People just started sending in, hey, I translated this talk. Hey, I translated this talk, just because they wanted to, and because they wanted more of their people to hear it and their language. And so that was really beautiful to see. And with that in mind, we encourage people to host local watch parties if they can't come in person. This time we're calling them activation hubs, because just the idea is like, hey, get together, rent out a venue or somebody's house or backyard, whether the whole conference or just pick the day that's most relevant to your community, get together, discuss like how can we incorporate these ideas we're going to hear in the permaculture, food independence area? How can we incorporate taking back our technology and doing practical things as a community, really try to encourage that. So every day of the event, we're going to spend at least 10 minutes highlighting a different activation hub from around the world, people who are really doing things, growing their food, homeschooling their kids, pulling money out of the banks, whatever it is they're doing. And I'm really excited about that because it's always cool. I think it helps people realize, okay, wow, this is really a worldwide movement. I'm not alone. We definitely heard a lot of that after the first two events, people recognizing that. So yeah, January 26th to the 30th, the website is thegreaterreset.org. We actually, the day we're recording this, we actually just posted the schedule today and all the details, the full list of speakers, including yourself, James.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, I love the focus, the ethos of this, concentrating on solutions and activation. And let's physically congregate so we can start to bring these ideas into the physical, real world. So it's not just a virtual talking shop. And on that note, when you asked me to present, and I was thinking, well, what can I do to give people specific tactual things that they can learn? Well, what is it that I do best? Well, I do research. So I'm going to teach people how to research online, and I'm going to show from my secret bag of hidden tricks, secret things that I've squirreled away. Spoiler, there are no secrets. It's actually just a lot of work. But it'll be an interesting experiment. I'm going to attempt to research some things live there for the audience, and it'll either be breathtakingly interesting and exciting, or it will be breathtakingly boring. I don't know which. Tune in to find out. But at any rate, hopefully I'll be able to show people the process of how to go and start researching and vetting claims and finding more of the context and seeing and putting pieces together. It may not always be sexy and exciting, but it is the way that we can come to a better understanding of the world. And that's a little bit that I hope to be able to impart to people that they can take away and start implementing in their lives the same day. So awesome. Let's do that. We'll obviously throw the link into the Greater Reset so people can check that out in the show notes and translate the truth. I'm all on board. I'm looking forward. RIP your inbox, I think, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are looking forward to translating this sort of stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. So let's keep doing it together. Derek Broze, thank you so much for coming on and bringing these ideas together.
Thank you so much, James. I appreciate it. And looking forward to having you at the Greater Reset. I'll just mention briefly, if you tune in, I'll tease my talk since James told you a little bit about his. I'm going to be talking about how we create the counter-economic job market as more and more of us are recognizing how important that is and what kind of tools, open source tools we have, what we've seen within the Freedom Zone Network, how people are already creating these markets and how we can build that locally. So look out for that.
All right. I'll have my eyes peeled. I hope other people will too. We'll leave it there for today. Derek Broze, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, James.